I'll just be silent for a little bit. Those who have joined already, could you please tell me if you can hear and see me clearly? I'm sorry I'm late for a few seconds, but it's just because I forgot my headphones, and I've been so forgetful lately, and I actually forgot to charge my phone as well. So that is why my apologies if it's gonna be like shaking a little bit, because I'm charging my phone right now, and to do that I have to hold it in my hand, and that means, yeah, my hand is gonna get tired very soon. So sorry if it's gonna be shaking a little bit. Okay, so please send me a message. Let me know if you can hear me clearly. Hello, Zhenya. Awesome. Okay, any kind of message actually, just even saying hi is going to be enough for me to understand that the connection is stable and you can hear me and clearly see me. Okay, everything is all right. Okay, awesome. I guess a few messages are enough. Okay, hello guys again. Today we have a very exciting topic, right? Games. Everybody likes games. I hope so. And I'm just gonna explain to you a little bit why I chose this topic. Is because I've been coming to this realization lately, and maybe some sort of an insight into teaching, and it does not coincide with the opinion of my head teacher, who is this guy, and I'm just going to be sort of describing you the situation at my work a little bit. So this guy, he's like a huge, I don't want to call him a thug, but that's the word that comes to my mind first. He is like 45 years old, and he is like huge, he's really tall. He's kind of overweight. He's all covered with tattoos, which I have nothing against, because I guess all of you know that I have tattoos myself. But it's just that the impression that he gives me sort of kind of explains his opinion. So he believes that games are a waste of time. He believes that games are not for teaching. They're not supposed to be used during classes, and it's a complete waste of time. And every time you have to explain the instructions, you have to explain the rules of the game, this is just waste of time. And then when the kids don't understand anything, it's also a waste of time. So that's his opinion, and I completely disagree with it, and that's why I basically chose this topic, because it really resonates inside of me, and apparently it resonates with you as well, because most of you chose this topic. Without further ado, let's just go on. I have, as usually, my little plan here with 5 points, the ones that I promised in my post. So we're going to start why I believe, of course, it's all according to my opinion, right? Why are games important? Or are they important, actually? The first question would be, right? So there are so many, there's just multiple reasons that I can come up with why I believe the games are important, they should be at least an essential part of anybody's studying. And even though I'm going to be talking mostly about teaching kids, but to be honest, I believe that this all can be adjusted to adults as well, and all the adults are deep inside there, we're all grown-up kids, and we all like just entertaining classes and having fun and socializing and relaxing. At the end of the day, it's all about just having a good time, right? So even though, again, it's going to be mostly about kids, if you teach adults, if you teach teenagers, actually this can be applied to teenagers as well, but anybody else, any other age, any other level, it's all the same, I believe. If you are an adult, it doesn't mean that you should not, if your students are adults, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't play games just because it's silly or it's stupid or, again, it's a waste of time. So the first point that I'm going to mention is motivation, obviously. I guess it's quite apparent, is because what we want to create is an atmosphere in the class that everybody's going to enjoy a lot, right? So what I mean by it is that kids or students would want to come back to your classes, with pleasure. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to look forward to any language, you know. Okay, I'm just gonna, guys, this time, even though I would like it to be a little bit more free than usually, but if you have any comments or questions that are related to this topic, go ahead, fire away. I'm gonna answer them right away, hopefully. Well, not right away, but as soon as I finish my sentence. But if there are any other questions, I'm gonna just leave them till the end, because those who have been watching me for a few times know that I can easily get distracted, so I want to avoid that. So yeah, you want your students to come back to your classes and with excitement, right? With some sort of feeling of accomplishment or of like entertainment in a way, because nobody likes boring classes, right? So I believe that one of the main purposes of teaching is to get kids inspired, right? Because at the end of the day, some kids, and maybe you wouldn't agree with me, but actually some kids, not all of the kids in your class are going to become teachers or interpreters or, I don't know, translators, or are going to have to do a job that is like closely connected to English speaking. Some kids probably won't even need English at all, or just a little bit of it, which is enough, more than enough right now already. But our main priority, I guess, is to inspire kids and to develop their memory, their social skills, their attention span, their pronunciation, meaning like not just English pronunciation, but also articulation, their confidence, right? This is also a very important point. So what I mean is games, and having not even just games, but like having a really great atmosphere in your class and having your students enjoy your classes is going to help you to inspire them to learn English and to realize that studying English doesn't have to be the same way as they used to do it in school, as if it's adults, or if they're kids, they probably still have the same okay, I have to, I think, get rid of this person. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. So yeah, so basically, if you inspire the person, and even if they don't get a lot of knowledge from your classes, let's say you teach them for 2 years or 1 year, and at the end of your studying process, they don't really get much. If you have inspired them, then chances are they're going to come back home and they're going to do something on their own, whether it's studying or maybe it's just watching videos or anything. So I'm going to tell you a little story from my own experience. I'm just going to hopefully make it short. So in a nutshell, when I was like, I don't even remember, like 20 years old, I guess, I started tutoring as everybody. And at that time I was just a rookie, so I didn't really know how to motivate people and how to teach properly. So I had a student. She was around 11 or 12 years, so she was a teenager. And for about a year, I used to come there and I used to hate our classes. I used to come there without any motivation, and I couldn't see any from her. And obviously she was a teenager, all basically her mind was not there, and she was thinking about other stuff that they care about. But I just couldn't get it. 1 second, who are these people? I don't get it. I have to remove lots of them. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh, there are too many languages, Chinese, German. Okay. Or is it Korean? Okay, anyway. So, I was talking about this girl, right? So when I used to come there, every time before coming there, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope they would cancel. And she had the same attitude, right? So she was like, Jesus Christ, this is so annoying. I have to remove so many people. It didn't happen before that. I don't know who they are. Okay. There are just too many of them. Just give me 1 second because I'm gonna be distracted. Okay. So once you get to the point of they're like, once you start igniting this motivation, igniting this inspiration, I don't know, igniting this spark, I guess, inside of them, it doesn't even matter if you manage to teach them anything or not. Because what happened with this girl, I used to come there and try to teach her in a normal, regular way with like grammar, vocabulary exercises and things like this. Until I realized that it doesn't work, and that both of us hate our classes, and she's like super bored, and all her, like, she was like showing it with her voice, with her body language, with her mimics, with her facial expression, with everything. She was showing it to me, and of course it was pissing me off as well. So basically, one day I just realized I need to find another approach. So I came there and I just told her, okay, for half of the class, we're going to be speaking about anything that you have been doing recently. And obviously, it's no wonder that it turned out to be video games, right? So basically, we were talking about Sims 3 and it did not take me just one class. So it's not going to be happening like, we just have one class about video games or whatever this person is interested in. But it took me like maybe 10 classes or even more. But it worked. It worked. And till this day, 6 years later, she's still absolutely interested in English. And she started learning it by herself. She started watching videos on YouTube. She started watching bloggers only in English. She started playing video games in English. She started basically like learning English in a very natural way, how native speakers do that. And I believe that this is much more important than just teaching, inspiring them to learn by themselves without a teacher, basically on their own, independently, right? So that's one thing, motivation. If your classes are fun, to summarize it, if your classes are fun, if they're entertaining, if they're having a blast during your classes, then they would want to come back, and that they want to probably do something even outside of class. Next thing is competition. So during the games, most of the games, you can use competition, and I'm going to just be ignoring like all the comments because most people are not even related to this, to the topic of teaching, but I'm going to spend too much time deleting them, so I'll just ignore everything. So competition, and that works both with kids and adults. Everybody's competitive. Some people are more competitive than others. Some people are less competitive, but everybody really wants to win. And that helps a lot with motivation as well, because in most of the games you can implement this sort of like strategy, I guess, or tactics, and tell them, okay, you're playing in groups and you're fighting against each other, or even like the best student gets this, and so on and so forth. So basically, that's a really motivating thing as well. Next thing, it can also help you to structure the class, because you can start with a game as a warm-up, and you can finish with a game. And I'm going to talk about it later, because that's going to touch upon the topic of when and how to implement them, but it can help you out with the routine of the class, because if you start the class, especially with the kids, the same way, it doesn't have to be the same game, but it can be like the game, like any game or activity that you like, right? And then finish also on a very positive note, I guess, then it's going to help you to structure it. So you will always know, okay, and your kids will also be prepared, or your students, again, will be prepared for the classes, and they will be like, okay, I know that we're going to start class this way, and we're going to finish it this way. And that helps a lot for the, like, sort of like set their expectations for the class. What else? And also, to be honest, I do believe that, especially with kids, probably not with adults. With adults, a little more complicated, because they usually come to the classes with their own, maybe with their own goals and with their own purposes. But most children, or probably even all children, come to the classes just because their parents brought them there, right? And or if it's public school, then they don't really have a way out. So this is going to trick them into believing that they are not really studying. It's going to trick them, and I believe this is one of the most important points in teaching English, at least. I don't know about other subjects. Trick them into believing that they're just playing games, that they're not really putting any effort, even if they are, because sometimes if your game is connected to speaking all the time, right, that's even more effort than just writing an exercise. But because they're having fun, it basically tricks them into believing that, oh, we're just like here to communicate, to socialize, to have fun, and but actually you are deceiving them, and by doing that, you are making sure that they will progress and they will get some result, especially because they will be speaking a lot. And the last, I guess, thing here is because thanks to the games or like activities such as role plays or simulated situations and things like this, thanks to them, you can teach them how to apply the language or the knowledge that they get in the class in the real life without even thinking about it. Because what I have experienced from my own classes basically is that when they play a game, they most of the time forget that they are studying, that they are speaking English. It's not even about studying, again, it's about speaking English. They just use, because they know, okay, this is the rule, right? So you have to be strict, of course, and you have to tell them that you can only use English. But I'm sure if they enjoy the game, they won't mind it. But if they are using English during the game, they forget about it. And they just perceive English as a tool of communication, as a measure how to get across their idea, or how to score a point, or how to express their opinion because it matters in the game, not because your teacher asked you. So that makes them not just confident, but also it makes them sort of apply everything they have been studying, because in like an urgent situation, you know, it's as if how if you're in a dangerous situation and you start speaking English, or you start like your mind starts developing like new ideas and coming up with something really that can help you. The same way it happens to them. If they have to use English just as a way to solve some sort of situation, so to solve a riddle, let's say, or to communicate something to another person so that they can do something, then it just shows them that English is needed for that purpose, not because they need to pass an exam, or they have to write a test, or because they just have to get a diploma at the end of the day. Most schools just kind of impose this attitude on the kids, but it's exactly because English can be used to make your life easier, or to make your life more fun, probably. So point number 2 is going to be, guys, don't really pay attention to that, okay? Just really don't. I don't know who they are, because the previous 4 webinars, to be honest, I did not have anybody else like this. I think it was like usually like 1 or 2 people. Sorry. Yeah, but this time it's really crowded, and I believe like half of those people are just outsiders and they do not belong to our community. But anyway, they still don't understand anything, so if they really want to write their comments in Russian and do something, let them do this. So next point is when and how to implement them. I would say it's of course totally up to you, because it depends on the class, it depends on your teaching style, it depends on what you have to do in the class, because sometimes, for instance, you have classes that are really based on the books, and you cannot really deviate from them, because maybe it's your school who's which is imposing this on you, or maybe it's some curriculum, or maybe it's a public school and usually you don't really have any freedom, right, at schools. So that's why it's totally up to you. But what I do is I usually use games in the very beginning of the classes and at the very end of the class. This is probably like a usual structure for me. So why? I will explain why. If you look at it from a psychological point of view, you can understand that when you come to the class, that's a very important period of time from the very start to get interested and to get this sort of probably like a positive memory, right? And at the end of the class, you're leaving, and most likely you're going to remember that as well, because this is the end of the class and this is probably like closer in time to you, right? So most likely, of course, obviously all classes are different, and you can have like different probably like a very exciting activity in the middle of the class, and then they're going to remember that too. But most likely during most classes or after most classes, your students are going to remember the beginning and the end of the class. And that means if they enjoyed a lot the class in the very beginning and at the end, that means they're going to come back home with a very positive, positive, how do you call it, like positive memory, I guess, yeah, positive feeling about the class. And next time when they come into the class, they would expect you to play a game as well or play an activity, and that will already ignite their interest. Another thing is, of course, you can use it as well as a reward system. That's what I used to do. I don't know, guys, what's going on, to be honest, really. So yeah. Another thing is to use it as a reward system, and I'm going to touch upon it a little bit later as well, but you can use it as, for instance, after tests. That's what I do. So for instance, if we have like a boring test that I have to give them, which I do not enjoy, and that's a different topic, but if my school basically forces me into giving them tests, once they finish, I always give them a game. Sort of as a reward and also as a way of relaxation, you know, because I know that it's stressful. I know that they have already poured out everything they have out of their minds onto the paper. So maybe right now they're empty. Maybe right now, Elvira, come on, just ignore them. Those are dumb people that they're just wasting their time. Can you imagine? Like all of you who are here on purpose probably are getting something useful or interesting from it, but like they're just like wasting their time. So they have nothing else better to do. So that's okay. Just relax. Yeah. So next thing. Yeah, like a break after a test, right? That's what I was saying. So usually it's going to be really difficult for them. For instance, if you give them a test in the very beginning of the class, it's going to be very difficult for them to focus on anything else after, to do exercises, to open the book or anything like that. That is why it's probably a good idea to just give them a little bit of time to relax and to enjoy the time together, you know, to socialize. And I'm sure that even if you spend like 10 or 15 minutes after the test, Alexandra actually agrees with me. Yeah, exactly. It usually, even like if you sort of waste these 10 or 15 minutes after the test, then probably the time after that, even if you have less time because of this game, is going to be just more effective, more productive, just because the kids are ready to study again. So this is about the time, I guess. This is all. But again, at the end of the day, it's all about your own class, and you are free to vary it as well as me. So next thing, how to implement them. Okay, I'm going to be very brief about it. So the first thing that I would like to mention is, and I believe actually I'm going to be connecting this topic with how to make the games effective, because it's very closely related. So, Jesus Christ. Okay, so first thing is, when you introduce the instructions, when you explain how to play a game, always act it out. Because yes, again, you're going to be wasting a little bit of time on that, but Jesus, I don't know, am I paying attention to it or anybody else is paying attention to it? But I'm just thinking that if I'm going to be blocking them all the time, then it's going to take a lot of time. I don't know, is anybody else bothered about it? Is anybody else, tell me please, is anybody else disturbed about all these strangers or not? I blocked one person, but I don't know. Yeah? No, okay. I don't know. I just want you to feel cozy because I don't really care, but it seems like some people started fighting with them, and I don't want it to be like an unfriendly environment. Okay. All right, just leave them. All right. Yeah, let's move on. Okay. Um, 1 second. Let me just block one more person, and we'll be done. Yeah, forget about it. Okay. Thank you guys for the support. Okay, so acting out the instruction, that's very important, and it's actually more important than just telling the instructions because most of the time probably your students are not even able to understand the instructions that you would want to. Victor, who's Victor? I'm not, because I haven't been even like reading these comments, so I don't even know who's Victor. Okay. Yeah, so if you show the instructions yourself, or maybe you can even use the help of another student, then they will get it right away. So basically, you can even waste, again, I don't know why, but I use this word a lot during this webinar, but if you use like probably one picture or one part of the game just to do it by yourself, and the kids can see how you do this, the instructions then are just not necessary. They're just pointless because they already see what they need to do. That's it. And another thing is, after that, always try to call out the smartest students. The student who you know for sure, probably his English is a little bit better, or probably he's just like maybe a quick learner and he can understand very quickly how to do it. So just be careful with that, because you're going to just be like just gonna cause a very awkward situation if you have just explained the game and then you just call out like the weakest student and he's not able to do anything, and then it's gonna be definitely a waste of time, and it's gonna be like everybody's gonna laugh at him, and it's just, yeah, it's just not really nice. So just keep in mind that every time the first student or the first pair of students or the first whoever, or even if it's just acting out, just call the smartest, the quickest students, the most talented maybe. And also you have to keep in mind that at the end of the day, yes, it is all about like having fun and having a great time, but it's also about speaking, right? So you have to make sure that your students actually speak, because some students, even if they enjoy the game itself, they might like just sort of sit it out and or wait it out, and or just like point. For instance, if you have to find something, you can just basically call this student out and say, okay, you have to, if you want to play a game, you have to pronounce the full sentence, for instance, because some kids, for instance, can just say one word, but if you force them into saying the whole sentence, then it's going to be much more beneficial for them in the first place. And you also have to tweak the games according to the level of your students, because that you can just get a little bit lazy, I guess, if you, for instance, using one game, the same game, for different levels or for different groups, but you shouldn't get lazy because, again, we have to make them as effective as possible, right? As productive as possible, as efficient as possible. Okay, you're asking me to block them. I've blocked like, I don't know, 5 people already. So, okay, I blocked one more. It's just going to take me like, I don't know, an hour to block everybody. Okay, so anyways, let's go on. Where were we? We were, okay, talking about, right, tweaking your games. So, Jesus Christ. Okay, one more. Just one more. Okay, that's it. Okay, for some time, I'll just leave it be. So, for instance, let me just give you an example. Maybe you can remember the PPT that I posted like a few months ago, which was hidden objects. So they had to find the objects on the screen. And for instance, there was a word which they had to read out, and there was a picture with a million of different items, and they have to find, for instance, glasses or a hat or a bottle or anything else. So they had to read it first. So what I did is, with little kids, they only had to either find it or point it or pronounce it or say, oh, this is blah, blah, or this is next to blah, blah. So it depending on the level. But with like the level which was like teenagers, 14 years old, for instance, I actually made them say the whole full sentence. For instance, like I see or there is a hat next to the bottle in the living room, for instance. So there had to be like a huge sentence that they had to make up. And it was still fun, it wasn't really too much to ask from them. But obviously, if you know that your students can do this, if your students are able, they have the capability, right, to do this, then you have to force them into doing it. So please change your game, alter your games according to their level. And another thing is time management. You really have to, and to be honest, guilty as charged, I do this all the time, and I still have to learn how to control my time and like set limits for the time, because sometimes you can just, especially when you're like having a lot of fun and the kids enjoy it and you enjoy it as well, right? That's also, by the way, one of the reasons to play games, because I do enjoy games a lot, and it's so much fun that every time I know that I'm going to play a cool game, like I look forward to the classes. So you have to not allow it to last too long, because otherwise it's just going to be a waste of time again. So you have to set a limit. For instance, you know that this game is a very useful tool to teach them this, or to practice this. Then you set the limit. For instance, if your class is 1 hour, right, then you can play this game for 10 minutes, and then you have to do anything else. And maybe then after that you can just come back to it if you still have some time at the end. But you really have to control this, and it's very difficult, and I believe that is a skill, I guess, and it's also I guess it's maybe it can sound a little bit cruel, because if you see that the kids are really enjoying it and they're having a blast and you're just stopping the game, but sometimes you have to be really a little bit ruthless, I guess, with it. Okay, next thing about games is, a reward system. So again, it's about like how to implement them and make them a little more effective. So in my school, I've already mentioned it before, we use dollars. So we have like our own dollars that we give to the students, but it can be anything. It can be any reward. For instance, a person who wins this game doesn't have to do homework, or like does something else, something easier, something more creative. Or this person does, I don't know, for instance, chooses something for the next class, right? Or if you have stickers or anything, you have to implement it in the game as well, because they need to get, I guess, like touch something, so to like basically realize that they have gained something, they have acquired something because they won. And on the other side, and it's again about making it more effective and sort of using the games to control the discipline. I guess I'm moving to another point already, is you can use the games and sort of maybe threaten your students, or just motivate them more. So for instance, and you have to be really strict with it. So for instance, in my classes, it happened several times actually that I had to come up with a different way to teach, even though I was planning, and I had to like improvise, and because I came to the class and I was going to play these games, and then I realized that, okay, all of the students, or like most of the students, came without homework, or something else, or maybe they were just misbehaving and they were being too naughty, too mischievous. Then what I did is I was like, okay, guys, and obviously I talked to them before, so I told them I'm very disappointed, I was looking forward to this class and I really wanted to play this game with you, but and I also explained to them that it's very important for me to enjoy the class, and that is why I come to the classes and I always try to make them fun for them. But this time you disappointed me, so that's why there's not going to be any game, and that is why we're just going to be doing the book, or whatever, besides the games, like whatever you're supposed to do. Or you can even, sometimes you can even be like a little bit more cruel and just give them a test, like an extra test or anything like that, or an extra exercise for writing, for instance. Yeah, so that could actually make the difference, to be honest. It works wonders, miracles, because the next class I came to the school and I realized that every single kid came with homework because they wanted to play games, because they were strongly motivated, and they realized that if they want this atmosphere, this structure of the class with games and activities to continue, they have to be diligent, and they have to do basically their chores, their tasks, what is expected from them. Another way to control it is, for instance, to eliminate just one kid. And that works also perfectly because it might sound also a little bit violent, but for instance, if one student has been causing like a lot of trouble to you and has been maybe not doing homework, or his grades are very low, or whatever, so the student is really causing you trouble. So what you can do is set him apart from the whole class and tell him, okay, so this is your punishment. At the end of or whenever you're playing, but for instance, in my classes, we play games at the end of the class. So at the end of the class, when we play games, you are not allowed to participate. No matter how badly you want it, you're not allowed, and you're going to be just standing there or sitting there and just watching. Or even like if I'm like too pissed off, I might even give them like an extra work, for instance, to write something or to do some exercise or things like this. But if it's not too much, then and it also works really well because trust me, when the kids, or even I'm going to be talking about kids, but again, you can just adjust it to adults as well. But I mean, I'm not sure if you can eliminate adults from the games. I don't know how they would react to it, but it depends again on your authority, I guess, and on the atmosphere in your classes. But with kids, it can definitely work because they do not like being a black sheep, because if everybody's playing the game and they're enjoying their time and they're socializing, they're communicating to each other and they're having fun, and then this one kid, trust me, he's gonna want to participate. He's gonna want to take part in it. And I've had this a million times because I would see that the students would be like raising their hands or trying to shout out, and you like do not take their answers or tell them to be quiet, and that works. Next time he's going to be prepared. Next time he's going to work much better and be much more concentrated during your classes. So that's one more thing. What else can I tell you about controlling the discipline? Let me just see. Okay, one more thing that I wanted to mention is whether the topic of the game should be relevant to the class's topic, so to the target vocabulary or whatever you're doing. I guess this is a big question because if some people, I guess, believe that if this topic of this game is not relevant to the class itself, then it's, again, a waste of time. I should be counting like how many times I use waste this time. Probably like 10 already. Then it's a waste of time. But I do not quite agree with it. I do believe that the games have to be connected at times, again. They have to be connected to the topic, and they can definitely like tremendously increase the result of your work, the result, like the progress of your work or of your studying. If this game is connected, and let's say, for instance, if it was like fruits or jobs or anything else, right? And the whole class, for instance, you spend on drilling, I don't know, well, whatever you're supposed to do because your school tells you to do this. So, for instance, how long have you been learning English for this level? Thank you so much. I've been learning my English. I don't know my English. I've been learning English for like, I don't know, like 20 years ago, I guess. I'm going to be looking, it's going to be really difficult though. That's what I realized, because I was going to, at the end of the webinar, like in 10, 15 minutes, I was going to look through the comments and answer all of your questions. But now, because of all these dumb people, I realized that it's going to be really difficult to find proper comments. So how about we're going to do this? I'm going to finish it, and once I'm done with whatever I wanted to tell you, then we can just spend maybe like 10 minutes to answer your questions if you still have them. And I will try to, and then I can just get distracted and I can just like block everybody, and I will answer the questions like right after. Okay, I'm Russian. I'm from St. Petersburg. Okay, so next thing that I was going to talk about, right? Okay, help me out. So I already forgot. Yeah, oh, about relevancy of the topic, right? So I believe that some games have to be targeted, have to be aimed at giving them a choice to practice it, right? So if, again, for instance, if you've been practicing, okay, let's just take something maybe more complicated than just fruits or jobs, or it can be even grammar, right? So for instance, there is, there are. So you've been like practicing doing exercise in the book, or whatever you do, right? I don't know what exactly your teaching style is and what your methods are, but you've been practicing there is, there are for a very long time, and then at the end of the class, you use a game which allows them to actually apply this knowledge, apply this skill to like in real life, basically. Well, not really in real life. It's not like you're taking them out of the class, right? But at least something closer, closer to real life. And that could really help you out with that, and that could help them to memorize it better and to understand it better and to actually see that whatever, because that's very important. That's actually very important for adults as well, maybe even more important than just for kids, to see that whatever you have learned is actually applicable to real life, that is actually useful, that it's not just a waste of, oh my gosh, what is it with waste of time and in me today? So it's not just in vain, it's just, it has a purpose. And the fact that you have spent the whole class on teaching, let's say there is, there are, then at the end of the class, by playing this game, you show them that, okay, this is the way how it can be used in real life. This is the way how you can use it to get across your ideas, to communicate to other people, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, I still believe that sometimes you can actually use games to just relax. to just speak. And it doesn't have to be connected to the topic all the time. Sometimes you can just use the games to warm them up. Sometimes you can just use the games to maybe help them to forget about the studying process and just enjoy it. Or maybe sort of like show them that the studying process can be a little bit different, that it doesn't have to be tests and exams and things like this all the time. It can be absolutely different. It can be much more enjoyable. It can be much more practical maybe than what they do in schools. So it's totally up to you again, how you're going to use it. Is it going to be relevant or is it not going to be relevant? But I would say probably try to combine both of them. So depending, maybe you can, for instance, start the class again if you're going to be applying my method of like using games in the end, at the end and in the beginning of the class. Then, for instance, in the very start of the class, you can start with a game which is not relevant, just as a warm-up, right? Just so that they can start speaking English and get used to the atmosphere of English. And at the end, you can use a game which is relevant to the topic so that they can actually apply those skills. So that's just an idea. But again, it's so like it's just improvisation, and it's totally up to you. I believe everybody has a different teaching style, and it's up to you how you're going to use it and when you're going to use it, and whether it's going to be just a game which is completely like it's like you have to deviate from the topic of the class, or whether it's like actually relevant. And the last thing that I want to mention probably is like the most expected one, is how to come up with more games. And obviously I'm not going to give you like a perfect solution of like, okay, this is how you come up with a game, and then every single day you just use this method and you have another game for your class. Of course not. I'm not a magician, but I'm just going to give you a few ideas that I believe in. So the first thing is try to recall your childhood memories. That helped me a lot to come up with the games that I post in my community. Sorry, my hand is like super tired, so I'm going to be switching to the right hand now. So yeah, that helped me a lot to come up with all these games that I posted with like flashcards or even other things that I posted in my community, because I sort of just sometimes when I'm out of inspiration, I just start to reminisce about my childhood, and I'm like, okay, what did I like playing? What did I enjoy playing as a child? So it can be hide and seek, for instance, and then you can use this game as just hiding objects, for instance, right? Or it can be tic-tac-toe, right? Or hangman, or Twister, or there are so many games, and if you actually spend some time to try to recall some of them and just try to sort of yeah, exactly, the traffic light, the one with the clothes, right? Was it one like when you have to run, if you have like yellow in your clothes, then you have to run to a different sign, something like that, right? So yeah, basically whatever you enjoyed in your childhood, most of the games, I would say maybe like 90% of the games can be adjusted to the classroom environment, can be implemented into your classroom, into your teaching. Just of course a little bit tweaked, a little bit adjusted, a little bit maybe with the language input, right? So that it's just it's not just a game, but still you can definitely take some ideas from your childhood, or not even childhood, to be honest. Sometimes we play games, right? We play board games, or we play party games, I don't know. So any games that you play with your friends, for instance, when you meet up, you can also use the ideas from there. So that's one way. Another way is PPTs. So I guess most of you, actually not most of you, because most of you are just outsiders, but beer pong, well, actually you can turn it into juice pong, right? Or anything like that. Yeah, so throwing balls, for instance, right? I forgot already how to play it. But yeah, you can just throw the balls and into the cups without beer, and you don't have to like really. I have one question. Is this English school or just okay? Yes, it's an English school. Let it be an English school. Yeah. So next one, PPT. Right? I was talking about PPT. I'm in love with PPTs, to be honest, and I believe this is like probably one of the best inventions in human history for teachers, I guess, because it allows us to come up, not just to come up, but to create our own games and to turn any activity that you are using currently in your classes, such as multiple choice or filling in the gaps or asking questions or anything else, you can use in the PPT, but make it so that they enjoy it, because it's going to become visual, because it's going to have animation, and it's going to seem like a video game for them. In a way, of course, a very simple one, maybe like Mario or something like that, but it's going to be much more enjoyable than just like doing it, with, what did Stan say? Elvira, I'm like skipping all the comments, to be honest. I'm sorry, because I realize that if I'm gonna be like scrolling through them, then it's gonna take a lot of time and I'm gonna be distracted. Yeah. So anyway, I was talking about PPTs, right? Yeah. I believe this is the best invention ever, and it doesn't have to be a game again. It's more about tricking your students, because it means that you can just use animation or pictures or videos or anything else and then make it seem like a game, whereas at the same time it's not. It's just the same practice as, for instance, thank you, Elvira, but you can like create the same PPTs as well, and it doesn't even, well, sometimes it does take a lot of time, I'll be honest with you, but you can just create like very simple ones, and you can just use one. For instance, if you create one PPT for, let's say, fruits, and it's a great idea, and you see that your kids enjoyed it, you can just use it as a template and just make a new one, right? For jobs, for instance, or for anything else. But yeah, I strongly recommend you to start using PPTs if you haven't yet, because it's a great tool, and also the very fact that besides just creating those PPTs, you are saving them on your computer, and well, first of all, you can share with us, right? But also you can reuse them whenever you want with another class, or maybe even like in 5 years, who knows, but you can always use them. So this is going to be your storage of games, and it's already done. It's ready to, it's like right there to be used. Okay, next thing is visuals. So I would say these are flashcards, and making your class active, basically. So what I mean is, it again doesn't have to be a game. It can be just something that includes actions, something that includes your students, even if they're adults, to move around, maybe even to jump around. I don't know, who knows, depending on how confident your students are. But especially with kids, you can just ask them to run around. I don't know, to run from one wall to another wall. I don't know if you've seen my post about picture dictation, running picture dictation, I guess I called it, when the students were running from, like, they had to describe a picture to one another, and one of them was drawing this picture, another one was looking at the picture, and he had to memorize it and then run to his partner and try to describe this picture to him. So this involves a lot of action, this involves a lot of running, a lot of effort, and it makes it fun, and it makes it stick. The words that they use, it makes it stick in their head, and plus, because they're moving all the time, because it's a physical activity, right? They forget about using English. I mean, they just, okay, that's not a very good point. I mean, they forget that they use English, so they don't really pay attention to that. They just use English again to communicate to each other, but they don't really think, oh my gosh, am I going to make a mistake, or am I supposed to use this word or that word, or maybe like should I pronounce it in this way? No, nobody really thinks about it, because they are in action, they are in motion. Next thing is competition. Competitions, again, it can be super simple. You can just divide them into groups or into pairs and give them even, you can even turn any activity that you would like them to do. For instance, like you want to do an exercise, like a very stupid exercise with like filling the gaps. You can still do that, but in a competitive way. You can just divide them into groups or pairs, and then tell them, okay, a pair who's the first one or who doesn't make any mistakes, then it's gonna, I don't know, whatever, get a better grade or no homework or whatever, you know, there are many reward systems. It's up to you again. Or sometimes, to be honest, even just the simple fact that they have won is enough for them as a motivation. Yeah. Another thing is quizzes. That's what I love as well, and I'm a huge fan of them. And you can also connect them with the PPT. That's what I like doing, because again, it's more interactive and it's more, I guess, useful. But yeah, you can do quizzes. Just maybe you can just even print the questions, you know, on a piece of paper, and then just read them out, and they have to answer, or they can even read the questions out to each other, for instance, one group to another one, and it's already a game. It's a competition sort of, and it involves using English. And also, besides that, why I love quizzes a lot is because it allows you the chance to learn something new besides English, because again, I believe that learning English is not just about the language itself, but also because we can teach them something else. We can teach them another culture, or we can teach them about, let's say, about the world, about the countries, or about the animals. I don't know, anything that you believe that it might be interesting for them at this point, or at this age, for instance. So quizzes are great because they allow you to practice both English and anything else that you would like to apply. Okay, next one is, TV shows. Okay, this actually is a new thing for me, and I've just started doing it, but some of the games that I have been posting in my community are actually stolen. So these are not my ideas, and I usually mention it. But some TV shows, like, I don't want to butcher his name, but I think he's Jimmy, help me out here. Jimmy Kellen, Jimmy, I forgot. Like those, there's an American guy and there's I think also a British one, and they have these just sort of like TV shows, when like talk shows when they just basically talk to the celebrities or anything, and they have so many different games, and you can just steal all their ideas and you can just turn them into a language game. To be honest, I didn't even have time to come up with like to steal all the ideas because I stole just a few, the ones that Jimmy Fallon, thank you very much, Bob. Right, but there's another one, right? There's Jimmy Fallon, and then like Jamie some, like I don't know, they're like Kimmel. Okay, Kimmel, but what's his name? Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel. This is so confusing. Okay, yeah, so those guys, right? Both of them are actually great, right? Jimmy Kimmel, okay. And what is the name of, or is it like the name of the whole like talk show? Is like Jimmy Kimmel Talk Show or something? What's the name of the show? I don't know. Yeah, so they have so many different ideas that you can basically just steal. Yeah, you can just take them and just turn them into your own, just tweak them a little bit, adjust them to the language environment, and there you are. There you have it. You have your own games, and you can also choose. Jimmy Fallon is from The Tonight Show. James Corden. Yeah, James Corden is also great. Actually, I watched his, thank you, Stan. I watched his videos just yesterday. It was like late Tinder night or something like that. It was so, live Tinder. It was so fun. Yeah. But who's British, by the way? I know James Corden is British, right? But Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, right? You said. Who is British and who's American? I'm really confused. Anyway, I believe that it's time to finish, at least speaking. I'm just gonna go ahead and open, 1 second. Okay. I don't know if I can block everybody again, or not. If I should, because it's gonna take a lot of time, but PPT is PowerPoint presentations. I'm sorry. It stands for PowerPoint presentations. So those are the ones like with Excel and Word document and things like this. Corden is British. Okay, thank you, Bob. You really made it clear for me. I'm Russian. Okay, Corden is British. Ellen show. Yes, Ellen is amazing as well. That's true. Yeah, Ellen. I'm not sure about the games though, because she doesn't really play games a lot, right? But she's great. Yeah, I love watching her, and she's so witty. Every time she says something, it's so funny. It's like hilarious. Okay, so the time has come for questions, and I guess all those dumb people that have been watching us for like almost an hour, they would not understand me like inviting you to ask questions. So anybody who understands me, go ahead. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, maybe please just go ahead, fire away. Ellen plays silly, simple games. Like what? What kind of games does she play? I can't remember anything. Oh wait, I did watch one episode. I think it was like she was asking really stupid. Oh wow, yes, you reminded me. I did steal one idea from her. It was like dumb questions or something like that, or idiot questions. So she was like going around the audience and she was asking really dumb questions to people. I'm Russian, yes. So she was asking questions to like really dumb, I can't say dumb people, but like some people were really dumb and they couldn't figure out like a very simple answer. So I stole that idea for sure. She actually plays lots of games with her guests on her show. Okay, I should probably start like watching it more, because I think I've just watched like a few episodes, but it was real fun. Okay, well, I'll start doing it for sure. Charades. She plays charades. Okay, there was another game that I really wanted to implement, but I guess I'm not gonna have enough time because I'm leaving in 3 days back to Russia, but I guess it's a really cool idea. But I do not remember who was it. Was it Ellen? Was it Jimmy? Was it Jimmy Kimmel? I can't remember their names. Kimmel or Fallon? Family Feud. What is Family Feud, Bob? Can you please tell us what it is? Okay. Somebody's speaking English, but he's still an outsider, I think. Yes, I do speak Russian. Russian is my native language. It's my first language. Okay. Any question? Okay, Elvira, how do you usually calm your kids down after a noisy game to start another activity? Okay, that's a very good question, actually. I would say that this depends on your personality, and one second. She plays charades using an app on her tablet. Okay. Can we download that app? That would be really cool. So, one second. Let me just... I can't even read because there are so many stupid comments, and I don't have enough time to read through your normal, through your, like, useful comments there. So let me just block a few people. Okay, so the question was, I still remember, Elvira asked me how to calm down the people. The survey, 100 people, and they asked them to answer questions. Feud, family feud, right? Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you. Maybe I can use it. I don't use Kahoot, to be honest. I've heard about it, but and I really wanted to try, but for some reason I still haven't. Okay. So yeah, the question about calming down the kids. I believe that it's all about your personality and how you present yourself. So if you come across as a very strict teacher who can have fun, at times, but also very quickly turn into this teaching mode, so your kids have to realize, have to see the boundaries whenever they can just relax and just enjoy the game, and then once the game is over, they have to just get back on track. And I'm sorry, I missed Bob's comment. Bob, what did you say? Yeah, so if you are strict, if you show them that the game is game, and they are allowed to relax, they are allowed maybe to shut out sometimes, they have a little bit more freedom, right? But once the game is over, you have to change your voice, you have to change your behavior, your body language. Yeah, please message me about it because it's really interesting and I would like to use it for sure. So Bob, please send me a private message. Yeah, so what was I saying? I already forgot, you see. I think they have started using Google Translate. It seems like it. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay. I think it's time to finish the webinar because it seems like there are too many useless people here. Okay, I'll wait just for 1 more minute. It was about calming kids down. That's what I was talking about, right? Yeah, so you have to set the rules. And you have to set the rules of if I say that the game is over, and we start. Again, you can use it as a sort of technique, as sort of a strategy to control the discipline, because you can say, okay, if you want to play the games, I actually had to stop a few times while I was playing games because kids would get really restless and it was difficult to calm them down. So I would say, guys, if you want to continue playing games, then please just be quiet, control yourself, behave yourself, and start paying attention, start speaking, stop shouting, stop interrupting each other and things like this. But yeah, so I'm just thinking that for all those people who are going to be watching it in recording, it's going to be really weird because I don't know if they can see the comments, but if you are watching it in the recording, yeah, so the reason why it's all a little messed up is because there are 50 people who are who do not know what they're doing here. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna end it, end this webinar. Guys, relax. Don't pay attention to them. Don't get pissed off. Yeah, so I hope it was at least a little bit useful, and I'm gonna try to answer your questions. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna look through your questions later, because I'm gonna be because I think they're saved after even when the webinar is ended, so I can look through them, and I'm gonna try to answer them maybe in the private messages if it's something important, if I can see that I can help out. or we can just even chat in the private messages, like with Bob and Stan. You can also really tell me, please, about Ellen, right? Ellen and her show and what kind of games you use. Yeah, so thank you guys for your attention, and thank you for bearing with me, and thank you for being patient, because all these stupid people have been trying to ruin the webinar. Yeah, so see you next time.